So I want to call the meeting to order, and I thought we'd do a roll call. And I'd ask the commission members to introduce themselves first. So I'm Kurt Zorn, and then Jeff
McKim,
Malcolm
Webb,
Vanessa
McClary,
and then Jane
Cooper-Smith, staff.
John, if you're able to join us.
Hi, everybody. John Zodi from the hand department in the car. So
All right. I'll try not to call on you, John, so you don't have to take your eyes off the. Larry
Allen, attorney.
And then we have two attorneys, right? Christopher?
Yes, Chris Cashman with Ice Miller's on, and Tyler Kloshnik should be on as well by phone.
Tyler's
and
on
then
call.
also we're joined by Janine. Sorry.
Okay. And Janine, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Janine Betsy, and I work for the Gene B. Glick Company. I'm the Director of Tax Credit Operations.
Okay, great. I think we've covered everybody. If I've missed anybody, chime up right now. We don't have any minutes to approve. We don't have any old business. So let's move to new business, and I'm going to turn it to Jane.
Sure, and I'll probably make a quick pass to Larry before he passes to Ice Miller, but today we're considering a resolution for an economic development revenue bond for the renovation of Country View Apartments at 2500 South Rockport Road. The resolution will be 2106, Economic Development Commission Resolution 2106, is for in an amount not to exceed $15 million. The city would lend the funds from this Economic Development Revenue Bond to Country View Housing LP, an Indiana Limited Partnership, or a to-be-formed Indiana Limited Partnership or LLC for the acquisition and renovation of the affordable housing development known as Country View Apartments. This housing development was built in 1970 and added to in 1975. The complex includes 206 apartments. All of the units in Country View are subject to affordability restrictions, half of which are reserved for individuals and families earning no more than 50% AMI, area median income, and the other half are restricted to individuals and families earning no more than 60% AMI. The mix of affordable housing would not change as a result of this project. Before I go too far through our memo, I guess, Larry, I don't know if you want to add anything. Tyler, I think you guys have a PowerPoint, which I'd be happy to pull up for you so you can present.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add, Jane. So
Okay.
Tyler and Chris, take it away.
This is Tyler. Thanks everyone again for accommodating in the time. Commissioners, you've been through the process before. That really, before I let Janine kind of give an overview of the project and the renovations that will be taking place, I think just to point out, this is an inducement resolution, so it does two things. One, it's going to be a necessary piece of the application that goes to Indiana Housing that goes for the tax credits and bond volume, which I know you know that from prior deals. And then we mentioned this before, but the timing component comes in on this one a little more acutely than other projects that have been before you, because the property was purchased, and as you know, the inducement resolution allows for reimbursement with bond proceeds 60 days prior to when the adoption occurs. So that's what's driving the timing on getting to the council by January 5th. So with that, if the PowerPoint's up, I'll go ahead and let Janine talk about some of the project highlights.
Okay. Jane, can you pull the PowerPoint presentation up?
Yeah, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Oh, and let me do an actual slideshow. There we go. That's prettier.
Okay, so Country View Apartments was recently purchased with 6 other properties from the Community Reinvestment Foundation by the Gene B. Glick Family Housing Foundation, who seeks to preserve long-term affordability of apartments. They own another 7,000 units, primarily in Indiana and other areas throughout the Midwest. The Country View apartment work is expected to cost about $35,000 per unit. It includes new kitchen cabinets, countertops, appliances, garbage disposals, kitchen sinks, faucets, new bathroom cabinets, countertops, sinks, toilets, all the items, mirrors, towel bars, those kind of items, new lights, new blinds. There's some subfloor and mold remediation that will be taking place. Additional kind of exterior updates include asphalt and concrete repairs, trash compactor updates, gutter work, downspouts, soffit and fascia repair around the doors. They're really tired looking, so that will all be replaced and updated. We're doing a couple items to the sanitary main drains, and we will be upgrading all the HVAC systems to a high efficiency furnace and air conditioner. Tyler, the slide that's up now is the fabulous bond and credit site structure slide that you alluded to initially.
Yeah, I know this is a slide again that the commissioners have seen multiple times now, but just as a reminder to show how the project is organized, structured, and funded, and as a conduit over there on the left side, issuing the tax-exempt bonds into the market or directly to a purchaser that results in the proceeds being borrowed by, here in this case, Country View Limited Partnership. And that's, again, an important piece of obtaining the tax credit equity credits that the purchase of the property here be permitted to be reimbursed, which is, again, another piece of the impetus for. And then I know the next slide is bond and tax credit process. Again, it should be a familiar slide, but just to remind you, this is an initial step, the inducement resolution. It doesn't bind issuance of bonds. It's not approving issuance. It's simply, again, has a tax effect and then permits application to Indiana Housing Community Development Authority. Assuming that we can move through that process, we'll start to select some of the financing partners and tax credit equity providers. And then hopefully with the submission of the application to the state, volume cap will get awarded, and eventually I think it would probably be a late, Q2, Q3, maybe next year, when we'll be back before you again for the final approval and ordinance before the council. And then just to always make sure we hit the relevant points here in terms of the bond characteristics. But it's important to note that these are not general, they wouldn't be general obligations of the city and payable solely from project revenues, no constitutional debt limit, and the indemnifications will be all built into the loan agreement with the borrower here. So the city's truly acting only as a conduit issuer.
Tyler, could I ask you a question here? I always feel like I need to ask this, even though I think I asked this last time we had something like this. So I understand it's not a bond, it's a revenue bond, so it doesn't count against the it's not considered general obligation, et cetera, debt limitations and so forth. However, indebtedness in general does potentially have an impact on future credit ratings and so forth. So my real question is, what is, if any, the risk associated with this, because if, as you know, if Bloomington, the city of Bloomington issues the bonds, revenue bonds, and the revenue source is not sufficient to support those bonds, then it still is a liability of the city of Bloomington. So can you help clarify that for me?
Sure. Well, yeah, two things. One, if this would be a private placement, there'll be just one purchaser. If it is actually in the public capital markets, the sets of investors are very different. And these investors, one, get disclosure that would say, they totally understand that it's not a credit of the city. And for something like a sewer or a general obligation bond, those investors wouldn't. They're focused on the taxes and revenues of the city versus this project. So it really would be a black eye on the borrower versus the city for a default year. And I think, honestly, the structure is probably going to be a cash collateral AAA rated bond. It's only outstanding for 18 months to 2 years. So.
Thanks.
So I think, the risk to the city of affecting their actual issuing and any penalty in the market, there shouldn't be anyone that if the remote possibility of the default occurred.
That helps. Thank you.
Just a couple other things that I think might be of interest. We are retaining 4 jobs there, and then the Family Foundation is hiring a full-time service coordinator that will work with residents in a more intentional manner. They come on before the renovation process and help put together a program based on what the residents need and want on site. And then we do have what we call internally, we call it a special teams. And we have a special regional property manager who works over all rehabs when they're going on. So her and her team really help with all the logistics, make sure residents have what they need. We do not displace anyone. If someone does have to stay out of their apartment, it's typically not more than 48 hours. We do provide lodging for them. We give them food cards when they're out. We put together like a 19-page document that shows people what's going to happen with the upgrades, what their new unit will look like, has who they need to call. We always accommodate pets as well. So they'll work with a particular hotel and set it up. So any resident that has to spend the night, that hotel just bill back directly to the Glick company. So the resident is not having to pay for any of those items or coordinate any of those activities as well.
So any questions?
I mean, we've heard this symphony before a number of times, and I think it's worked out well before. I certainly support this. And just to clarify again, I always ask this: the reason for using the city as a conduit is to save the origination fee on the loan. Is that, or on the bond? Is that correct?
That is a fair statement. That it is cheaper sometimes to work with the jurisdictions than it is the state agency, and also in this case, it was also timing as well. So,
good. And I'm sure it just helps to have the local jurisdiction show support that the community's got a little skin in the game. So
absolutely. And Country View is an awesome little property that it needs some upgrading and updating, but it's the only one in that census tract. It's super close to Bloomington High School. It's really in a well-located area, and it'll be a much better asset when it's all cleaned up. And there's some important repairs that are occurring as well that people won't see, but it'll be meaningful to the property long term. So The one clarification I wanted to make is that Jane said that the AMIs would stay the same. So right now the units are 103 units at 50% rents, and then there are 103 units at 60% rents and income levels. Right now, we're charging all tenants that live there 50% rents. We are going to ask the state allocating agency to allow over time the property to be 100% at 60% AMI. Because it makes it easier for compliance long term, but we will not raise people. Any of the 50% renters that are in there now will stay at 50% rents until they move out. And Glick has a practice where they do not raise rents more than 5% annually. So that's typically a $35 a year increase, but they really work to keep them down and sustainable for the tenants. But I just wanted to make that point. And the other thing, it is 50% occupied right now by local folks that have housing choice vouchers. And when it's tax credit, we would do it anyway, but you are required to take housing choice vouchers. So folks will be able to continue to stay there, and it won't change what they pay.
Thanks. I'll piggyback one question on that, which I think John Zodi will want to ask. I see he's in the chat, but could you also, Janine, talk about long-term affordability
Yes.
commitments? Thanks.
Yes. When we go through the tax credit program, we make an initial 15-year plus an additional 15-year that is irrevocable. We cannot do what they call a qualified contract purchase, whereas after year 15, you opt out of the extended use period. You irrevocably waive that right now, and we wouldn't do it anyway. But additionally, because it's owned by the Family Housing Foundation, once it goes beyond the 30 years, it would be operated as a safe harbor property, which would continue to not be more than 80% AMI units. So the foundation obviously is committed to the long-term ownership and affordability of its properties.
Thank you.
Vanessa, any questions, comments?
And no, I think I've got my question answered. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't mean to leave you out, Jeff. You'd already mentioned some, so I just wanted to make sure that we didn't leave Malcolm and us out. But anybody, of course, any questions, comments? Well, hearing none, maybe we're ready for a motion.
Move approval.
No, go ahead, Jeff.
Just going to say move approval of resolution 21-06.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, let's vote. And Jane, we have to do a roll call vote, correct?
We do. And can I just confirm, was that your second, Malcolm, or was that
my
Vanessa?
second?
Okay,
It
great.
was Malcolm, yes. Jeff made the motion. Malcolm was second. So let's do a roll call. Jeff, since you're the first tile that I see in my...
Yes.
Okay. Malcolm?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. So we have a unanimous vote. So thanks to everyone.
I sincerely appreciate you guys taking the time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Malcolm, go ahead, please.
Before you adjourn, Jane usually has to chase us down for signatures. We've got signatures on a document right here. I mean, we got signature blanks on a document. Do you want
I think she has a way to send a document around to do a
is it going to be an e-sign?
Yeah, I'll pop it in DocuSign as soon as we hang up, if that works for the commissioners.
That works.
It does. I'll be looking for it.
Okay.
All right. So that's something, yes, let's all be looking forward to when we get it signed. Hopefully today or no later than tomorrow. All right.
I'll be here
And
for a little while. Okay.
yeah. And I think we're finished with that item. So is there anything else for the good of the order, as we say?
I would just like to thank the commissioners again and Ice Miller and Jean Glick reps for everyone's patience and flexibility in rescheduling. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I echo the thanks from Jane that everybody was flexible so we could get this taken care of as quickly as possible. All right. Well, I'm going to wish everybody.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to wish everybody a happy holiday and hopefully a restful holiday. All right. And
That's
we
great.
are adjourned.
Recording stopped.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Everybody have a great holiday.
You too.
Thank you.